Hello, good evening, and welcome to the latest in a series of information sessions we've been having about Embley, about adolescents, about young people, and about the world that we're in. Tonight, our focus is on sixth form. I was thinking about the best way to get this thing going, and maybe sort of just framing it around some questions might be useful. What is the sixth form? What's it for? Why are you even considering it? And what might you keep in mind when you're making your choice? Well, I suppose it's a gateway to university, to degrees, apprenticeships, joining the services, the world of work, whatever it might be. Largely will occupy 2 years of your life. And the question might be, how do you want to spend that time? So what are the options? Well, there are a variety of sixth forms, there are a variety of sixth form colleges. They all want dedicated, talented students to add to their number. So maybe some very particular, specific questions that you might want to keep in your mind as you kind of mulling this over. So maybe the first one is, where will you find a timetable and a program that's built around your choices? There are some offers where it's a kind of a take it or leave it. This is what we do, and if you fit, well and good, and if you don't, that's just too bad. You'll have to find a way to fit. Here we do things differently. Here we don't have pre-designed blocks that you fit into. We create the option blocks around the choices that you suggest to us. So I guess the question then is, do you want to be part of the program, or do you want to be a cog in a machine? Maybe the next question might be, well, where will you find the best value added? Where, as a parent or as a student, where will you find an institution that is actually going to allow you to demonstrably be your best? Well, here, last year, those who left us left with at least a grade above their expected baseline testing. In a world of change, and goodness me, wasn't there a lot of change, there is a consistency around our commitment to excellence. No other provider comes even close. Our nearest competitor, looking at those statistics, is at least 130 places behind us in the league tables. Where will you receive the kind of tuition that you deserve? That's really significant. Think about the kind of tuition that you deserve. Here, class runs face-to-face, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, as it were. You will not find yourself spending more time traveling to academia than you will actually entertaining and enjoying it. If there is another lockdown, you will certainly not be abandoned to printed PDFs and the odd touching base with tutors at the end of a day, but you will have the routine of timetable, the consistency of delivery, live lessons in real time, with a bespoke structured interaction with tutors, with teachers, and so on. But maybe if traveling on the train is what you want and missing lessons is what you crave, not entirely sure that that's our deal, so we may not be for you. Where will you find teachers who know your strengths and weaknesses, for all the good or ill that might follow on the back of that? Do you prefer the anonymity of being lost in the crowd, the remoteness of a lecture theatre? Well, here we do things very differently. Here we're an integrated community. People are known. Children, students, staff know each other and know each other well. It allows us to respond to particular need. There is no sense whatsoever of being a cog in a machine or just another number. I know there is the lure, the attraction of that. Lots of providers will get you to the same end, but it is worth considering how you're going to spend that journey. Is it going to be endured, or is it going to be enjoyed? We've recently seen a number of students returning to us, and some joining us fresh, because the provision they experienced wasn't at all what it was cracked up to be. We deliver Monday to Friday, and far beyond that. We deliver a bespoke program of study to get you to be your best, to arrive at where you really need to be. We challenge leadership and expectation. We're ambitious for you because we know and value you as an individual. We connect you with the wider world through the MBA program, the link with the universities, the connections that come from belonging. Consider the possibilities that exist, building your LinkedIn profile with the luminaries that you meet through our Nightingale lectures and the enrichment program that we put on. We mentor you through your choices and applications. We drill you to be the best version of yourself, and we expect that you're going to embrace that. Our sense of independence is not to abandon you to be one of the crowd, but actually quite the opposite. It's about taking responsibility for yourself, for an area, an individual, or a project, and to see it through. Embley has a proven track record of outstanding success. It places us within the context of our parent group, United Learning. It places us at the top of 100 schools within the group. Nationally, it places us in the top 1% of all schools and colleges. And I think it's probably fair to say that little Embley has come a very, very long way in a very short time. And just think how far it can take you. There's lots of questions. There's lots to think about. How are you going to think about that? Will you think for yourself? Will you choose what is best for you? Well, the long and the short of it is your choice, and it's worth asking yourself, what is it you really want? To go through some of the detail, we have some colleagues with us, and I think Mr. Piccardo is now going to take you through some aspects of the granularity of life in the sixth form. Jose, over to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Canning, and good evening, everybody. In my section of this open evening, I would like to give you a flavour of what studying in the sixth form at Embley looks like from the academic perspective. First, what I always like to start is one of the most important aspects of our academic success, which is an unrelenting focus on continuing professional development. Not because the teaching here at Embley is not up to scratch, but because everyone's practice can always improve. We therefore follow and in fact are active participants and leaders in the national debate on education. Our work and contribution have featured in the Times Educational Supplement and in the resources of the Chartered College of Teaching, among others. At both the micro and macro level, all our initiatives and interventions and down to the lesson planning and reporting, these are all based on a combination of practical classroom experience, pedagogical expertise, and educational research, such as that which you can see summarized on the screen. There is extensive research, often untapped, about how children learn best, how teachers can best structure a lesson, how they can check student understanding, how they can provide models and supply materials in small steps to ensure greater understanding. What we do is we make sure that we're plugged into this knowledge base, not just for the benefit of our students, not just for the benefit of our teachers, but ultimately for the benefit of our students. But the most important aspect of all is what happens in the learners' heads. This is why we also rely on what cognitive psychology, which is the science of learning, tells us about how students learn best. Not only so that teachers are aware of this, but so that we can pass on this knowledge to students, so that they, in turn, are able to better plan and self-regulate their own learning. Every year at tutor time, in lessons and during assemblies, we share these strategies from cognitive psychology with our students, but we also make parents aware of them through curriculum and information evenings so that parents are able to help their sons and daughters at home. And of course, the tracking of what progress students make is of paramount importance to us. This is something that happens routinely as a back office function. In addition to the granular day-to-day tracking that all departments carry out, that all teachers carry out of the progress happening in the departments and the classrooms, every half term, the school performs a whole school tracking exercise that allows us to see what progress individual pupils are making and in what context. So an example of this is on screen currently, and it's a screen grab of our swarms tracking system, which we have developed here at Embley. In it, you can see the progress that one individual student is making or had made across the senior school over time and across subjects. This tracking allows us to see where a student stands in relation to the cohort, whether they're performing well in the subject, whether they're performing well in a group of subjects but not others, and whether they're performing well against the baseline data that we hold on every one of our students. As you can see, we use numbers to make sure that your son and daughter are not just numbers, and to ensure that they are looked after according to their individual needs and and putting in place bespoke interventions that ensure that they always perform to the best of their ability. When it comes to explaining our academic offering, we must mention our digital strategy, which is recognized nationally as a beacon of good practice. Last March, when the government-mandated lockdown was enforced, Embley was able to pivot seamlessly to remote teaching and learning, like Mr. Canning explained earlier, with the best in-class response to the coronavirus emergency. We were able to continue teaching remotely and ensured that our students did not lose out in terms of knowledge acquisition and attainment. Of course, we prefer to teach face-to-face, and it is worth noting, like Mr. Canning did earlier, that currently other local sixth form providers remain heavily restricted in terms of face-to-face teaching, with some offering only 1 hour a week per subject. That's about 3 hours a week of actual face-to-face tuition. Whereas here at Embley, we are back full-time with 15 hours a week face-to-face in year 12 and 18 hours a week face-to-face contact in year 13. And that is before we look at the vast co-curricular offer in place. But like Mr. Canning said, rest assured that should there be any further lockdowns, we stand ready to revert to remote learning so that you, if you're a student and if you're a parent listening to this, or your son and your daughter's chances of attaining highly in the sixth form are not affected adversely. And this takes me to the choice of A-level subjects. So on screen, you will have a list of the subjects that we currently offer at A-level. The range of subjects that is on offer is wide and varied, and it allows our students to specialize further as they prepare for university. At Embley, students usually study 3 A-levels and 1 extended project qualification, or EPQ, which is worth half an A-level. Now, I will talk more about EPQs in a second. This combination of 3 A-levels plus an EPQ offers the best chance for students to be offered places at Russell Group universities and Oxbridge. Having said that, alternative models such as 4 A-levels can be explored with individuals and depending on their needs and aspirations. But let's have a little look about to the extended project qualification, because this is something that wasn't about when any of the parents listening to this were doing their A-levels. So the extended project qualification, or EPQ, is a research-based qualification that is completed usually in year 12, and it complements an A-level study portfolio. Students research a subject of their choosing before producing a dissertation, an investigation, a performance, or an artifact. Students have a track record of excellent results in the EPQs, with students achieving A* or A as the norm. The qualification is worth half an A-level, and it's incredibly well respected by universities. It teaches students essential research and writing skills that are required to succeed in higher education, and the qualification is invaluable on a personal statement or a CV or at interview. A lot of our students choose to study an area that will contribute to their university course or a future career. In recent years, for example, projects have ranged from designing and building a paddleboard to conducting a meta-research analysis on the diet of the Maasai tribe. Other projects have focused on things such as laws on capital punishment in the US and Iran, George Orwell's political views, and the options for topics for EPQ are practically limitless. But enough about the EPQ. Let's talk about the main body of your A-level, which is the subjects that you do. Choosing what A-level subjects you're going to take is a delicate process, and our highly experienced senior teaching staff are available to help students make these important decisions. Our advice is to choose a manageable combination of subjects that you enjoy. And if it's a new subject, for example, a subject that wasn't available at GCSE, this is a subject that will play to your academic strengths and interests. In our experience, this combination is likely to lead to achieving the best grades. The subjects on offer at Embley, which you saw in a previous slide, are all facilitating subjects. That is to say, they are the subjects that will ensure that our students have the most options and avenues to explore when it comes to university courses, and also offer them the best preparation for them. There are a few misconceptions at play when it comes to choosing A-level subjects. For example, some people may think that you need to do an A-level in law in order to study law at university. This is actually not the case at all. Universities actually prefer it if you take history, English, or a foreign language in preparation for a law degree. The same applies to other courses such as media studies, sociology, or criminology. They are actually not required to do media studies, sociology, or criminology at university, and you actually stand a greater chance of being admitted to your course of choice if you choose 3 facilitating subjects instead. Another misconception is the number of subjects. Universities look for 3 good grades. Most of the time, what you get in the grades is less important. Sorry, what you get the grades in is less important than the grades themselves, which is why picking the right subject that suit your strengths is so important. Having said that, there are a few courses such as pharmacy or medicine where you will need to be prescriptive with your choice of subjects. For example, to study medicine, you usually require chemistry and biology, with a 3rd subject of your choice, although many universities prefer this subject to be either maths or physics. So as you can see, it is really important to do your research. But we are here to help, and that's one of the main benefits of sixth form at Embley. So what about entrance requirements? Well, students studying A-levels at Embley will normally have attained a minimum of 5 GCSEs grade 9 to 5, and ideally a grade 7 in the A-level subject they wish to study, or an equivalent subject. So for example, if you wish to take French for A-level, we would require that you have at least a grade 7 in French. But if you want to take economics, for example, then you'll need a grade 7 in maths, for example. So a subject that is of similar structure. For students that have studied combined science at GCSE and want to go on to study a science subject at A-level, we would also expect them to get a double grade 7 for combined science. However, what we do is we make sure that all cases are looked at on an individual basis as well. And that takes me to the end of my section in this open evening, sixth form open evening presentation. What I'd like to do now is to pass the baton on to my colleague, Rebecca Thomas-Snell, who is our Director of Sixth Form.
Good evening. I hope that you are well. It is now my great challenge to follow Mr. Canning and Mr. Piccardo in welcoming you to the sixth form. I hope to be able to shed a little light on what life is like over the 2-year journey, what experiences are on offer, and how we support pupils' well-being whilst also ensuring that they strive to achieve their very best. Next slide, please. I wanted to begin with 3 observations that I've made in the first few weeks of my tenure here, but I'm sure that these will be recognisable to those of you who are already at Embley. First of all, the pupils are so welcoming and supportive of one another, from a cup of tea on a tough day to helping somebody out who has maybe broken a finger playing sport. Pupils are open with each other and with staff. Here, it is okay to disagree respectfully, and I love that open dialogue. Finally, it is an immensely cohesive sixth form. They have a communal tea and coffee area, they buy cakes for each other, they look after each other, they have really flexible social groups so people aren't ever sat out on their own. Ultimately, they look after each other and they look out for each other actively. My first experience of the sixth form was a day in July when we were going through UCAS applications. Half of the year 12s were sitting in a computer room during their break time period discussing free markets, veganism, capitalism, and which car to buy, concurrently it seemed. No matter the viewpoint or the succinctness of the argument, every pupil was heard and responded to. This sixth form is a genuinely warm and caring place. We are now in the midst of the UCAS applications, and this has proven to be another asset of the school. The vast array of courses being applied for, from going to Cambridge to study law, to going to Texas A&M to study dental via marine biology at Glasgow University. It proves that this is not a school with a set idea of how a child should end up, but instead a school that has facilitated its pupils in making good choices, feeling able to make measured risks and confident in their knowledge of themselves. Next slide, please. So how do we get to the point of application for university or an internship or applying to a job or the services like Mr. Canning noticed? Well, the enrichment programme that we offer is a weekly session dedicated to gaining the knowledge and skills needed to make strong choices. We begin with multiple sessions from the admissions team at Exeter University, covering how to select a course, show yourself as an attractive candidate to a competitive university, and beginning to piece together the personal statement. We start looking at that in year 12. Now we are having weekly sessions with lecturers and current pupils studying courses that our pupils are interested in, a sort of try before you buy. We look beyond the curriculum to challenge their preconceptions of career pathways and prospects. We are bringing the PricewaterhouseCoopers partnership in spring term, allowing interested parties to receive mentoring and professional skills workshops. The Royal Institution are running a masterclass programme for our computer scientists and mathematicians in November. The mini MBA programme begins for all Year 12 pupils after Christmas, with a range of excellent speakers covering everything from leadership and organisation to financial management. The Nightingale Lecture Programme offers an opportunity to not only hear from, but speak to people who have had varied and exciting careers and lives. We're holding a careers fair to introduce pupils to the breadth of options available, from management consultancy and project management to adventure leadership and architecture. We have a new Oxbridge programme, a new SAT and BMAT prep programme. We advise on MOOCs and Future Learns. We track open days and are in active dialogue with numerous admissions tutors. I want every pupil to leave Embley knowing that there are a wealth of options for the taking and leaving them feeling empowered to grasp them. Next slide, please. Now, it is a phrase uttered with an air of tedium, but these are indeed strange and tricky times. As Mr. Piccardo has already said, we have an excellent digital provision, so we know that pupils feel secure in continuing to access an excellent education, come what may. However, it would be naive not to be aware that we need to give greater emotional support and enhanced understanding of what good mental health looks like. I am proud of the pastoral provision that we have here in sixth form. It is excellent. Every morning and every afternoon, each pupil meets their tutor. For 3 mornings a week, they have 20 minutes with their tutor, following a programme of sessions on everything from road safety and alcohol awareness to understanding loans and improving study skills. Built into this schedule are plenty of opportunities for relaxed one-to-one conversations. As part of the enrichment rotation, there are also dedicated sessions for well-being. Pupils complete a 6-week Be Mindfulness course aimed at appreciating and realising what is happening now rather than fixating on what has happened or what may happen. I also believe extremely strongly in coaching, and that forms one of the cornerstones of the sixth form here. Understanding that the event plus behaviour equals results. I want all Embley pupils to know that they are capable of making good decisions and that we, as teachers, will always be here to support and guide, but most importantly, to listen to them. Ultimately, our role is to ensure that our pupils leave with as many doors open as possible and the confidence to go forth, take risks, make decisions, and be their best self. We actively encourage our sixth formers to have a go, to try something new. And I'm keen that the dialogue in the sixth form is transactional. We are active in listening to the desires of pupils and keen to ensure that our provision remains forward-thinking and a strong reflection of what the pupils want and need. We are lucky to have such a close bond between staff and pupils, but this is not something that we take for granted, and instead something that we are careful to reflect upon through regular discussion, but also through our truly super sixth form team of prefects, who are led exceptionally well by Sam and Clara, who you will hear from in just a moment. So, the 3 words of Embley: ambition, belief, compassion. That's what we want. The sixth form is about being ambitious, having the belief in yourself and others, and showing the compassion towards all those around you. And I'm going to pass you now over to Clara, who is our head girl. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Clara and I'm head girl here at Embley. I've been at this school for 14 years since I was in reception, and I feel privileged to have grown up among these grounds and to have experienced some of the many opportunities that Embley provides. I currently study A-level PE, psychology and English literature, and have also recently completed my extended project qualification. Studying at Embley Sixth Form has thoroughly prepared me for further education and has helped me to develop what I love and has inspired me to study a sports degree at university next year. The support and encouragement from the staff here really helped me to reach my potential, and the students here are well respected and treated as adults, helping to prepare us for university life. Beyond the classroom, Embley Sixth Form offers so many different opportunities, from school trips to Wembley Stadium and the House of Commons, various sports competitions, and our unique Nightingale lectures, which have seen a range of guest speakers, all greatly add to the high quality experience of Embley Sixth Form. As a member of the Sixth Form, there are various leadership roles within our prefect team, both for Year 12 and 13. From heads of house to sports prefects and heads of year, there is an opportunity for everyone to enhance their leadership and communication skills. Working closely with the teachers and the students as part of the prefect team really helps to build a strong community among the school. With all the opportunities here at Embley, understanding the philosophy that the more you put in, the more you get out is a great attitude to have, and is something that I would strongly encourage everyone to do coming up to Sixth Form. Our aim at Embley is to produce well-rounded young adults who are prepared for their exciting lives and bright futures. Through both our academic and extracurricular opportunities, I believe that Embley Sixth Form is the best place for this to happen. Personally, I can't choose my favourite part of Embley. However, the memories and friends I've made over the years will stay with me forever and have helped me create the person I am today. And now I'm going to pass on to Sam, our head boy.
Good evening. Welcome to this rather strange open evening, and whilst I do regret not being able to speak to you all in person, I suppose that this is the next best thing. My name is Sam, as Clara so kindly mentioned, and I have been at Embley for what is now just over 4 years, having joined in 2016, back when I was in Year 9. I'm now in my second and final year of Sixth Form, studying English literature, politics and history, and how quickly it's all gone. Outside of the classroom, I spend my time playing sports such as hockey and rugby, and if I have time, I play my guitar to relax. Next year, I hope to be at university studying law, something that will propel me towards a career that I've been well prepared for. Moving away from home for the first time is undoubtedly a daunting prospect. However, I'm excited rather than scared at the idea of going to university, and a large deal of this comes as a result of the excellent support that I've received during my time at Embley. It is difficult to pick my favourite part of life in the Sixth Form here. For me, it's all thoroughly enjoyable. But if you were to really twist my arm and to force me to choose, then I would have to say it would probably be the small moments that make the Embley Sixth Form a really special place to be. The moments between you and your friends, and those between you and your teachers, the feeling of a shared victory when you finally wrap your head around a question, or the moments when you feel down and are lifted up by a friend and carried along with them. Everyone is pulling in the same direction within the Embley Sixth Form, and this is something that drives us all to be our best and to help others achieve theirs along the way. Now I'm going to hand back over to the headmaster for a Q&A.
For whatever reason, my microphone seems to be controlling itself. Yeah, it's in and out, on and off of mute. It seems to have a mind of its own. At least I think I can be heard at this point. I think if colleagues would nod and let me know they can hear me, that would help. Well done, thank you very much. Okay, little technical hitch, but you know, stuff happens. So I was thanking Clara and Sam, they're excellent ambassadors for everything we do at Embley. There are some questions coming in, a couple of them around universities and destinations and so forth. I think Mr. Piccardo has answered some of that in the chat, but there are a wide variety from you know, the Russell Group through the arts universities, Edinburgh for computer science and so forth. So there's a vast range, and I think I'll leave it to those who are on the chat to have a look at what Mr. Piccardo's responded to. In terms of our experience supporting students who are applying for medicine and veterinary medicine degrees, it's vast, both with myself, with Ms. Thomas-Snell. We've got considerable experience in looking after those children. We also have a variety of contacts that we can call to bring in, either for practice interviews, for mentoring, and for support in the application. People who've been through it, who've done it, and come out the other end. And we have colleagues on staff who've been through that process as well. It's probably worth mentioning at this point that there are a number of scholarships available for sixth form study. The detail of that will come to you in the brochure that comes out in the next few days to follow this particular meeting. But Charlotte, were there particular questions that you wanted to address to members of the panel? I don't think Sam and Clara are going anywhere, and I'm sure they're happy to take questions.
Yes, thank you. If I start firstly with Mr. Piccardo, we've had a couple of questions around GCSEs and A-level options. First question, do you have to have a GCSE in the A-level that you choose?
Well, it depends on the A-level. So some subjects like, for example, economics, then you don't need to have done economics at GCSE because it's simply not on offer. However, other subjects such as a modern language, Spanish, even subjects such as history, if you were to attempt to take those subjects at A-level without have the body of knowledge that you gain throughout Key Stage 3 and GCSE, then you're not really doing yourself a favour. So it is not something that we would recommend. So the traditional subjects, yes, you would need to have taken them at GCSE. The new subjects, no. All you need to do is show an interest and an aptitude in that area of study.
Thank you, that's great. And we've had another question just about languages at A-level. Can you study a language, for example, Spanish, if you didn't study it at GCSE?
Yes, I covered that in my previous answer. It is not something that we would recommend, no.
Okay, thank you. If I can just sorry, that was questions already been answered. Maybe sticking with you, Mr. Piccardo, you mentioned that students have 15 hours of face-to-face teaching in years 12, 13. How are the other hours structured?
So in the sixth form, they will have some tutor time. They would have assemblies, year assemblies. They have enrichment, and they also have structured study time. So they actually have study periods where they carry out a lot of their independent work. That is required to succeed at A-level. One of the important considerations to take from GCSE to A-level is that the gears step up. It is a changing gear, and there is a lot more content and a lot more depth to the subject that you take on at A-level, and therefore a significant amount of time is required to catching up with all the reading and all the reading around the subject and reading into the subject.
Thank you. If I move to Mr. Canning, we've had a question regarding IB. Have you experience in transitioning pupils from IGCSE or IB programs into A-level programs?
I had a feeling this was coming my way. I spent 25 years of my life with the IB, so I know it very, very well. So yes, we have very, very considerable experience in bringing children across from IGC, IB programs into A-level, whether it's PYP or MYP. I mean, I think some schools have issues around MYP because the grading system is a little bit different and they don't always understand necessarily how the areas of interaction fit into programs of study. And the terminal exam situation, there not being one at MYP, or certainly not in the same way there is for GCSE, can cause some issues, but no issues for us. So very fond experience. Any of the Oxbridge candidates who end up working with me are all too aware of the experience of IB, because we spend a great deal of time looking at theory of knowledge, and it's one of the aspects of my job that is richly entertaining. I've done some work with our Oxbridge set, and it's just glorious opportunity to spend time with children talking about fascinating ideas and some significant depth.
Great, thank you. If I building on the Oxbridge point, maybe if I go to Miss Thomas-Snell, we've had a question about how do you support Oxbridge candidates?
Okay, thank you very much. So with Oxbridge candidates, we have we'd obviously do practice for the various testing that happens over the course of summer term going through into Michaelmas term, the autumn term. We also have one-to-one interviews, so you'll have your subject specialist advisor, which would be a person who's relevant. So if you're applying to do law, for example, you would talk to somebody who's in one of your humanities. So you'd obviously have a bit of politics and history as well as English, thinking about the critical thinking side of things. On top of that, we are actually going to start the Oxbridge programme for year 12 in spring term for everybody. So everybody gets the same level of tuition. It's about being able to think widely around your subject, encouraging wider reading and making sure that we have an effective log, that we are stretching and we're challenging with the articles that we're encouraging them to read, the things that we're wanting them to watch. We are also doing interview practice as well, and every department, as I mentioned before, has a reading list. So it's pretty holistic, and there is a really clear course that begins in spring term of year 12.
Thank you. And I just stick with you another question about work experience and internships. How soon do students need to apply?
Well, so it depends what it is that you are looking at and where it is that you're looking at. So lots of the internships are beginning to come up now through to sort of about March. Obviously, they are varying in terms of how competitive they are. So, for example, if you're looking at something like the Dyson Institute, which is a bit of a mix between the two of them, you would be looking to apply in around November, sort of December time. A word of caution about that, I would be really cautious with leaving things too late. And so I would start looking now proactively. If you go through the UCAS page, we can help talk about ideas for that and amazing internships and apprenticeships. But quite frequently, particularly at the moment with people wanting to get into careers, we advise people to get in there early, get their applications done, and that way, one, it's something they don't have to think about, and two, it's something which, if they close the doors early, which they have been doing, you are already in, you don't have to worry about it.
Thank you. And changing tack slightly, can you hold a leadership role if you only joined in year 12?
Yes, and we have somebody in year 12 who is doing exactly that. It's about looking at your interest. It's about looking at how well you fit with the particular roles that you're particularly interested in. Yeah, absolutely. We're really keen that people are able to show their skills and to help other people and to get engaged as fully as they can be. So I'm sure that Sam and Clara will light testament to, because they are very good at making sure that everybody is equally involved.
Great, thank you. And if I move over to Clara now, we've had a couple of questions actually around the free time or the study time that you have, and questions around how that's structured.
So we have obviously several study lessons per week, and we each get our own personal little desk in the sixth form study area. So we use these times for revision and for study, and also some of the teachers do allow you to pop in if you need any help at any time. So I often go to, for example, I go to my psychology teacher if I need some help with classwork or homework at any point.
And another question on the study time, is the study time monitored and supported?
It's definitely supported. We have teachers that do come in and check that we're okay, check what we're getting up to, and making sure that we're on track for what we're doing.
Lovely, thank you. If I can move back to Mr. Piccardo, we've had a question just about the 4 A levels. Can you just say a bit more about how the 4 A level option would work?
Yes, so I'll say a little bit more about, just explain the offer, which is the offer here is three A levels. Our recommended offer is 3 A levels and 1 EPQ. Some students may show an interest in doing a 4th A level, but at this point, what I always like to remind students is that universities want 3 good A levels. To access Oxbridge, to access Russell Group universities, what you need is 3 really good grades. And if you study a 4th one, then you're going to dilute your time. You're going to have to spread your time, the same energy across 4 subjects. And there it may not always be the case, but it is usually more difficult to get the top grades if you do 4 A levels rather than 3. Since universities only require 3. That's why we recommend 3 A levels plus an EPQ. The EPQ will give people the extra, our students, the extra edge that traditionally a 4th A level would have given them. Having said that, we do have students who are extremely gifted academically, for whom the choice of 4 A levels is the appropriate one. So those are that's generally the circumstances where we allow students to take a 4th A level.
Thank you. And just staying with you, what EPQs are available? We've been asked.
Sure. The beauty of the EPQ is that there isn't a list of topics. The students come up with the topics. So if you have an interest in horticulture, you can do an EPQ on horticulture. If you like hawks and eagles, then you can do an EPQ on birds of prey. It is entirely up to the student.
Thank you. And if I can move to Sam, please. Sam, what does the sixth form offer socially?
Socially, the sixth form is brilliant because there's the level of free time you're given allows you to chat more about often subjects and the kind of the freedom that you're given, as opposed to say year 11, allows for more or for closer social bonds. And because it is typically a small sixth form, you know everyone, you're friends with everyone, you can chat to everyone, no one's left out.
Thank you, Sam. And back to Mr. Canning. The question is, universities want state school pupils. Do pupils have to get higher grades if they're applying from private schools such as Embley? And are they less likely to get offers?
I think universities want good quality candidates who are prepared to make the most of their experience. I'm entirely sure, and I think it may be. There is an agenda, certainly for students from backgrounds where there hasn't been an experience of higher education to recruit to build that. We've not experienced it. We have a number of students who've had unconditional offers to read very, very significant subjects, for example, architecture and so forth. So we've not had any issue with that. There is an extent where it's a bit of a media football. It's thrown around the press, but it's within our sort of criteria, our makeup, to actually craft personal statements and provide students with the grades that actually get them where they need to be. And the personal statement bit's important because that wider aspect that, I think Sam touched on it as well, where you can demonstrate a wider knowledge around your subject area, where you actually have the capacity to see the wider hinterland of what your subject is about. That's the kind of thing the universities want to see. They want to see, do you have that capacity for intellectual thought, debate, and are you articulate enough to actually deliver on that? I think that's a very, very fair question, but no, we've not experienced it at all.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, and I'll stick with you if I can, Mr. Canning. 2 questions. So what are the major sports on offer, and what's the standard of sports teams and programmes at Embley, specifically rugby?
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. So you ask an Irishman to comment on teams coached by a Welshman. Very kind. We're under 16 county champions, under 15 county champions in rugby and hockey. The standard is very, very high. It's very, very competitive. I think that I'll spare Sam's blushes and Clara's for their role in all of the above. So hockey, rugby, cricket are the principal sports. But to be perfectly fair, it's not possible to discount the sailing, where we compete in around the island very, very successfully. We ski, like people with their hair on fire. Indoors, 2nd and 3rd nationally in the last 2 years, and we've taken ourselves to Europe to challenge there as well. I'm sure I'm missing something, but I think that's a fair assessment. We're the home for Hampshire women's cricket. Our girls are very, very significant in that regard, and I don't think that's to be sneezed at. How we bring both games on for girls and boys is hugely significant. We also have a girls rugby team. Now I can't hear you, Charlotte, and I'm sure it's not because you were unmuted.
sorry, I'll repeat the question again. I was going to go to Clara because I know Clara's a keen sports person. So from a student's perspective, I was wondering if she had anything to add on what Mr. Canning said about sport at Embley.
So obviously I play netball, hockey, rounders and cricket, all the girls sort of side sports. I've been in every team. It's very open to everyone. We have a high standard. As Mr. Canning said, we recently won the under-16 hockey championships, which I was actually part of. And we've got a high standards within all of our sports, really.
Great, thank you. And while I'm on to you, Clara, I know that you've done quite an interesting EPQ, so I was wondering if you could perhaps explain a little bit more about that.
So for my EPQ, I did the influence of 80s fashion on today, which isn't to do with my subjects, but was a really strong interest of mine. I ended up doing an artifact for it. I made a full-size magazine. I did all the photo shoots, the makeup, the hair, everything, all the costumes. Took me a while, but it got me a good grade in the end, and it was a lot of fun.
Great, thank you, Clara. And just back to Mr. Canning, I think this will be the last question that we've got. I'm assuming this is from a boarding perspective. Can you leave on weekends to London, etc.?
Can you leave at the weekend to go to London? There's a degree of freedom within boarding where we encourage children to have as normal a life as possible. The boarding family is its own little entity. If there's a good reason for that, then yes, that is possible. I did wonder if the questioner meant if we had exeats. We don't actually have exeats. We look after the children who decide to come on board with us. But yes, if there are family members or so forth, if there is a reason to travel, then that's fine. We are currently not doing very much of that because of COVID restrictions. And maybe just before I end, could I just go back to maybe some of the observations that Clara, Sam and Mr. Piccardo were making around EPQ. One of the core aspects of that, it also feeds into the university piece where you're actually reading around something that you intend to study, or it may be a passion of yours. It's part of that plank that sets you up as that already autonomous, independent learner. And that's very much the Embley model. But I think, as you say, Sean, we probably have come to the end of our time. For those on the call, it doesn't have to be the end of our interactions. I'm available to answer questions by email. Do come and visit, call, and we can pick up on the discussion. And I'm sure, if you so wish, we can make sure that everybody who's been part of the panel is also part of our response to any question that you want to ask. So for me, for us, and for now, I suspect it's a case of thank you very, very much for tuning in. It's been a delight to be in your company, and we look forward to seeing you and welcoming you to Embley before too long. So again, for me, for us, for all, good night. Thank you very much for joining us. Bye-bye now.